merciless afternoon sun dominated the sky. Arbhutha lay in his den upside down, staring at his paws. The black stripes that ran all over his arms and the rest of his orange body were always fascinating for him to look at. They looked just like the shadows cast by trees on the sand. He loved to sit around at home and think about his stripes and the other colorful things he saw around him. But every time he caught himself daydreaming for too long, he heard his mother's voice in his head, accompanied by his brother's cruel laughs.
This is why you will never learn the ways of your kind. All you ever do is sit around staring at the trees and the rocks. You think you can survive in these jungles? Why this kind of attitude? Get over your silliness, for heaven's sake. All your brothers have grown up. It's time you do as well.
His mother often yelled at him when he was a child. He was a slow learner when it came to hunting. He would always get lost in thought right when he had to take action. This habit of his drove his family right out of their minds. As he grew older, his mother stopped yelling at him, but his older brother took her place. Every time they caught a deer, which was considered a luxury in his family, Arbhutha's brother would make him wait till all the other brothers had finished eating their share. Then, when Arbhutha looked, in horror, at the insultingly small piece of meat left over for him, his brother would come up to his ears and say,
"Maybe hunger is the only thing that will drive you to learn our ways."
His mother sat at a distance and watched indifferently as Arbhutha was mistreated and humiliated this way by his own brothers throughout his childhood. One day, he decided that he did not belong to this family of bullies and sadists. He was destined to live alone and wander through the forests, adhering to Hyson lifestyle. Sure, he would sometimes go for days on end without food, but he was happy as long as he didn't have to conform to the ways of his family. He rolled over and stood up, shaking off his drowsiness. He hadn't eaten in more than 2 days, and the last thing he'd eaten was a slim old duck. He did not believe in the supremacy of eating deer. He thought it was an unnecessary waste of his time and energy. From what he recalled, he never even liked the way they tasted. The only food he liked were rabbits and ducks. They were reliable and just enough for him. These were his ways. So what if this made him thin? At least he had the originality and authenticity to create his own lifestyle. He walked out of his den and sat down, looking around. His stomach gurgled. It was time for him to go hunting. Although Arbhutha was a foodie just like his ancestors, he didn't really enjoy the process of actually getting his food. He never quite understood why the prey that he hunted always struggled and screamed when he caught them. Don't they know that whatever is happening is supposed to be happening? What part of this is a surprise to them? This was something that never ceased to amuse and agitate him. Rabbits had always been his favorite when it came to taste. They had just the right consistency and texture, but they always gave him a hard time. He hardly ever caught one, but was always overjoyed when he did. Ducks, on the other hand, were kind of his staple diet. He very rarely failed to catch one, but he wasn't the biggest fan when it came to how they tasted. Their annoying feathers were always stuck in his teeth, and he'd often spend hours trying to get them out. He started walking towards the thickets in front of his den. He would always first look around for rabbits, and only after he was confident of his bad luck would he proceed to the stream. He groaned and snapped as a leaf tickled his ear. It became cold and dark as soon as he stepped into the thickets. This built a kind of chilling suspense for him every time he went hunting. He avoided all the sticks and twigs in his way as he looked around cautiously. No matter how careful he was, the bushes and leaves rubbing against his body would often give him away to his prey. He sometimes even had to crawl on the ground so that the leaves didn't reach him. Sometimes the leaves would turn brittle and fall to the ground in big lumps. This would happen for days, and Arbhutha found it extremely difficult to find his food on these occasions. Luckily, today was not one of those days. The faint sunlight shivered on the ground as a light breeze hit the trees. The shadows looked just like Arbhutha's stripes. He wondered if he looked like a piece of the ground crawling amidst the bushes. Just as he was about to get lost in that thought, he saw something move out of the corner of his eye. He slowly looked around, and voila! It was a fat little rabbit munching on something near a big tree. The tree behind it gave Arbhutha good contrast, and he could make out exactly how many days he could survive on this meal. He turned just a little, got even lower with his jaw almost brushing against the ground, and started moving towards the rabbit. As he took his first step, the forest became deafeningly quiet. The rabbit stopped eating and stiffened up. Arbhutha let out a growl and jumped. The rabbit had just enough time to look at him and jump out of the way. Arbhutha rammed into the tree behind where the rabbit was, yelped, and fell on his front. He stood up and looked around frantically. Everything was blurred from the impact, but he could see that the rabbit had escaped. He clenched his teeth out of anger. Oh, what a damn embarrassment. Could it get any worse than this? You have truly hit rock bottom. His brother's voice played in his head. He could see his mother's disappointed look in his mind. He looked at the tree, hungry and livid. He didn't know what to do. I guess ducks are all I'm good for, he thought. Just as he was about to turn towards the stream, an unusual smell hit him. He was a little confused. Normally, he could not smell his prey until he first saw them from a distance. This kind of an overt smell was very new to him. He sniffed and started walking towards the smell. After a rather long stretch of bushes, the forest suddenly opened up to a large lake. How had he never come here before, he wondered. As he looked around, his eyes caught something that he thought was too good to be true. A large white animal was drinking water out of the lake. He had heard about these animals in stories that his mother used to tell him and his brothers. When his mother was a child, her family lived near a human settlement. These humans were timid and helpless when they were alone, but scary and monstrous when they came in groups. They were just like wild dogs. Although his mother's family knew that they were dangerous, they chose to live near them, because these humans brought big, slow animals called cows near the forest. These cows would sometimes be far apart from each other, and if his mother managed to catch one of them, the entire family could eat and have full stomachs for a long, long time. What Arbhutha was seeing was one of these creatures, a cow. His stomach gurgled ferociously. He felt a strong sense of pride fill his entire body. He had never felt this way before. Strong, capable, and menacing. He felt like one of his kind. Arbhutha could not control himself any longer. He let out a piercing roar and ran towards the cow. As he ran, he saw the cow look at him, and then something very strange happened. The cow did not run away. It did not even try. It just stood there, first with a look of fear in its eyes. But this look then changed into something that Arbhutha had not seen in any animal before. It was a look of submission. Arbhutha stopped just short of the cow, making sure that he was blocking its way. He could not contain his excitement. He looked at the cow and laughed louder than he ever had. He realized as he was laughing that he sounded just like his brothers. He could not believe that this was happening. The cow kneeled and put its head down.
I'm going to rip you apart and drink your blood,
announced Arbhutha. He had no idea why he was saying this out loud. The cow looked up right into Arbhutha's eyes.
All right, but please hear me out before you do that. I understand that you are hungry and frustrated. You must not have had anything to eat in a long time. But you see, I have a little boy waiting for me at home. He must be really hungry by now too, expecting me to go back and feed him. He's a mama's boy, poor kid,"
said the cow as she let out a weak chuckle with tears filling up her eyes.
"This might sound really unreasonable to you, but I'll ask you anyway. Will you allow me to go back and feed him, stay with him this one night, teach him how to live without his mother, and come back? You will have to stay hungry for just one day, and then your stomach will be full for longer than you can imagine."
Arbhutha was astounded. In all his years, he had not encountered or experienced anything remotely like this. He did not know what to say.
What are you? Out of your mind? Are you trying to insult me? How stupid would that be to let a fine meal just walk away? It's unthinkable,
growled Arbhutha.
"Of course, you would feel that way, but you have to believe me. I could never be dishonest. For better or worse, it just is not in me. Just consider what I am saying for 1 minute. You had a mother too, and she would have definitely sacrificed her life trying to feed you when you were a child. Please, just try and put yourself in my son's place,"
said the cow, with a look of helpless desperation in her eyes. Something about what she said struck a chord with Arbhutha. He started feeling things he had never felt in his life. Nothing had prepared him for the situation that he was in.
"If you do not come here the next day, right after sunrise, I will come searching for you and kill your entire family,"
said Arbhutha, shaking with anger. Just as the cow was about to say something, he turned and ran away. As Arbhutha walked back to his den, with his stomach still gurgling, all the pride and strength that he had felt just a while ago had vanished. He instead felt a toxic and powerful feeling of shame gripping him from head to toe. His mother and brothers had been right all along, but he also felt alone and deprived. He felt envious. He was envious of that cow's child. It had a mother that so deeply cared about its well-being. The cow did not care if her child was tough or if it learnt the ways of its kind. Her love for her child was simple. Arbhutha had never had that kind of love in his life. All his family cared about was whether he was like them or not. They constantly made him conscious of his weaknesses. But he thought maybe they were right all along. Maybe I am destined to be weak and impotent. When he decided to leave his family, his mother had said to him,
Our ancestors always said that there are two kinds within us, ones that win and ones that lose. We have watched the losers among us starve and die right in front of our eyes. Nobody grieves for them. Me and your brothers tried very hard to turn you into a winner. We tried our best.
Arbhutha walked into the darkness of his den and lied down. A loser, that's what he was. He couldn't bear the gurgling in his stomach. He shut his eyes. The cow was not going to come back. He would die a slow and painful death, he thought as he fell asleep. When Arbhutha woke up, it was the next morning. He felt too weak to leave his den. He just sat there looking out into the bristling bushes. There was a sound he began to hear from in between the bushes. It is probably another predator, he thought indifferently. As he sat there recollecting his past and the life he'd lived, the sound from the bushes got closer and closer. Arbhutha paid absolutely no attention to it until a figure appeared out of the bushes. He could not believe his eyes. It was the cow. There she stood, with the same genuine look in her eyes. But the fear had vanished from her demeanor. She was content, almost even happy. The cow walked up to Arbhutha inside his den.
I came to the lake first thing in the morning. You weren't there. I thought maybe something had happened to you and came looking. But I'm glad to see that you're well. I apologize for having kept you waiting for this long. You must really be starving by now. Anyway, here I am, flesh and blood. I'm all yours.
She said and sat down, waiting to be killed and eaten. There wasn't 1 ounce of contempt in her eyes. Arbhutha was devastated. His childhood flashed in front of his eyes. Every meal he had ever had was right in front of him. Thousands of petrified, lifeless eyes, frozen in their painful screams for help. Thousands of mangled limbs that once stumbled and struggled to stand in their infancy. He saw himself and his brothers tear through these eyes and pull apart these limbs, one after another, competing for a bigger piece. All of a sudden, his body, that was light from starvation, began to feel too heavy for his feet. He felt like he would break through the rocks underneath him and fall into the ground. Finally, a tear rolled down his face and dripped down from the tip of one of his whiskers.
How could I possibly kill you?
Said Arbhutha, looking into the cow's confused eyes.
You and I are siblings, children of these forests. How could I harm you and live with myself?
Arbhutha walked past the cow and didn't look back. He kept walking. His mind was clear. He felt elevated. As he walked through the forest, the trees finally opened up to a cliff. Arbhutha walked up to the edge, looked down, and took a deep breath.